Welcome to the Big Biz Show, featuring insight, analysis, and a lot of stuff that's none of your business.
Hold on. This is the Big Biz Show. I think it is their business.
Making the markets work for you. Here's the man with the plan, Sully.
It is a Big Biz Show. Thank you very much for stopping by today. It is a Thursday. One more sleep until the 3.5-day weekend. Okay,
look out.
Just hold on a second. Mike Costa, Mary Bird Godwin, Greg Totter. If you have the DTC, come on. Let me give you that. Nice.
Ooh.
I used to love it when my grandpa, who was a house painter, and my dad was a house painter, I'd visit them and I'd go to work with them as a little kid, and they'd knock off early on a Friday. It was the greatest time. We're going to knock off a little early on Friday, which means that we were going to go to the bowling alley with my personalized bowling ball that said Sully at age 7.
Excuse me.
Whoa.
Or we were going to go play a little golf, right?
Okay. All right.
They were, and they're, but I always thought it was like, so you knock off early on a Friday or do you just not? Greg and I are kind of, we don't go in on Friday.
I was going to say, there's not even a no.
Well, thanks to our wonderful crew and Jared Coleman leading our Emmy Award-winning director and leader of the studio, putting together our best ofs on Friday, which you guys have sent us a lot of email about. We cobbled together the best of the week. Greg and I, it was time to start drinking tequila right after the Thursday show. So.
Yep. Thursday's a new Friday.
Stop right before Tuesday show.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Okay, a little inside baseball.
Well, that cat's out of the bag.
Howie Font, Howie Font, the man on Wall Street with the best hair, and of course, suffers us on a daily basis. He doesn't suffer Mary, he just suffers the three of us.
Yes.
Howard, how are you, sir? Good to see you. What's going on Wall Street today? I understand the S&P is at all-time high today.
We did. We're a little off it now. We're negative for the day, but we hit an intraday all-time high. And my first question is, does it seem to you guys like we're living in a time where the market's at an all-time high? I mean, does it feel like that?
No, it doesn't. You mean, does it feel like we should be an all-time high? No, I don't feel like we should be an all-time high. Here's my question. Can you explain for the audience, because I think this is important. Do you understand what he says by intraday high?
No.
Okay, what that means is, well, I'll let Howie tell you. Basically, we have an open and a close.
Yes.
During the trading session, it's called intraday, right?
Okay.
Howie, explain the intraday. When did it hit and what happened directly before and after?
It hit in response to Nvidia, the chip maker. It's been really popular in the news. Had strong earnings, and that's right. Intraday just means the prices throughout the day. So it wasn't at the open, it wasn't at the close. So at some point in this case, in the beginning of the day, we hit that high water mark on the S&P 500.
So let's extrapolate why that's important. Nvidia, stock symbol NVDA, is a chip maker. Their earnings post high. Mm-hmm. Why would the market go up because of that? Because I'll tell you why. Because they're selling more chips. And what do chips run? Computers. And who buys computers? Consumers. And who has to have money to buy computers? We do.
Yeah.
So it's an open air indicator saying that we're apparently spending money in sort of an unexpected fashion here. So we're doing better than we anticipated, meaning that it's a foregone conclusion that the economy is going in the right direction. Howie, am I right on that?
You're completely right. I would also note
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. I'm sorry, you broke up there for me. Can we get that back? What did he say? One more time. Did they say completely right? I thought so.
Mike, Greg, you've never been wrong. Mary, you're impeccable.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted
yes,
to say?
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Just like we wrote it.
I belong in the kitchen.
No, one of the things about Nvidia, Howie, is that it's part of the S&P. Okay. No, it's part of the Nasdaq. I beg your pardon. Is it Nasdaq? It's Nasdaq.
It's part of the S&P 500.
S&P. And but it's got a market cap that weighs a little bit differently than a lot of stocks. Now, market cap is the price of a stock times its outstanding shares. Talk about that real quickly before you move on.
Well, I just think it's important for people to realize that when we talk about the S&P 500, which everyone does all the time, I think a reasonable assumption is you think, okay, 500 companies in a group and we buy them all together and it's equal pieces. It's not equal pieces. It's market cap weighted. The biggest companies take up more. So Nvidia is actually 5% and a growing percentage of the entire S&P. Apple, Google, they're all up there at 5%.
Do you know what's not growing, Howie? Stay there. The amount of chips in the bag, the amount of duds in the milk dud, the amount of nougats.
Shrinkflation, it's real.
Is it shrinkflation or is it shadow inflation?
Well, it depends. Let's talk about that.
Greg's the expert of it.
Big Biz coming up. Stand by. More Howie and us.
Welcome to the Big Biz Show, featuring insight, analysis, and a lot of stuff that's none of your business.
Hold on. This is the Big Biz Show. I think it is their business.
Making the markets work for you. Here's the man with the plan, Sully.
Big Biz Show for the Loft 100 Studios, sunny Southern California. Always appreciate you guys being along for the ride. I'm Mike Costa, that's Marybird Godwin. Greg Todorov, our executive producer, best in the business, by the way. And of course, Sully.
So, I hate to do this. I'm bringing Howie back up. I love Howie, but the fact that we were talking about, if you're just joining us, is the fact that we could be going to a 24-hour stock market trading model, whereby right now on the East Coast, the stock market's open at 9:30 in the morning and closed at 4 in the afternoon. Okay. Which is nice. I like this, and the reason I like this is because at least you know in the middle of the night something bad is not happening. Now, having said that, I may be overreacting because what happens at the end of our trading day starts the trading day in the Asian markets. Okay, and every morning when we open our market, there's an auction to kind of make up for the difference in how we ended and how they ended.
Okay.
Now we're beginning again. So let's say there was a crash overnight. We're gonna open up lower. Howie, it may not be as horrible as I think, except for the fact that our ability to resist looking at the stock market at 2 in the morning when you wake up with insomnia, right? I mean, that's really the net result because it doesn't really affect
gambling
much.
addicts will have a problem, but you're exactly right that the inherent risk is, oh my gosh, I don't have a diversified portfolio. I only own Tesla or Sully's Tequila Factory, and it's down 5% at 2 in the morning. But if I had just slept through, it popped right back up.
Well, so there's two morals of this story, and you make a great point. Number one, you shouldn't be day trading anyway. If you liked Apple at $1.40, you like Apple. You liked Apple at 70 cents.
Right.
It's the same company. It's a snapshot in time. And had you taken your money out of the stock market, every time it dropped down and looked like there was no hope, every time for the last 10 times it happened, and then you put your money in when you thought it was safe, you'd have about a 6% return, as opposed to just keeping your money at risk, you'd have probably a 16% return during high times and a 10 or 12% return during moderate times like right now. The other issue is this. If you are day trading, the first thing you do when you buy a stock when you're day trading is sell it. And what I mean by that is you place a sell order into it. So if I buy a stock at $100, I put what's called a trailing stop in, meaning that if that stock drops by 10% at any time, and actually my trailing stop's 5%. Okay. So if I had 100, next day it drops to 95, I'm out. Set it and forget it, George Foreman. A trailing stop means as the price keeps going up, the 5% stop follows it. So now I'm playing with the house's money. I'm refusing. It doesn't have to go down to 95, it just goes down from 5% where the high is. And at some point, I always say when you're making 10% over a day in day trading, you take your money off the table and go south with it. When you're playing blackjack, you always take that chip and you drop it in your right hand pocket. So now you're playing with the house's money now.
Always.
Right. So it's sort of the same thing. I think that if people are smart about it and disciplined, Howie, I think it's going to be okay. Because I think the problem is when you see the day traders and the micro traders and the meme traders and the shorters, I think that's going to be the problem.
That is definitely a risk, but the positive case for 24-hour trading would be fairness. So right now, the only people that can trade before or after hours are people that have special accounts, hedge funds, other institutions, and we've seen the volume for what's called U.S. market futures contracts. It's just a way to trade outside of hours, has increased every year. So this would let retail players come in and say, okay, there's new employment data, there's new inflation data, and the market's jumping up and down before 9:30. Well, you don't get to participate in that if you're just Joe Schmo. But now you would be able to, is the idea. It's a little fair.
I think so. And one of the options is, there's only two ways to be wealthy in this country. You either have to own a business or you have to own some real estate. And owning a business is owning a share of stock. Okay, you're owning a piece of that business. But then there is the real estate function where you talk about owning real estate as to diversify your portfolio. And you could do that within reach. But one thing I start thinking about is liquidity, right? This whole conversation started about how liquid are we? I sell my stock, I get it the next day. That is the fastest path to liquidity you can have. And one of the problems with real estate is we don't have a real fast path to liquidity. It takes 30, 60 days to sell a house, which made me start thinking, well, wait a second now. If I put all my money into equities and I don't own real estate, that means I'm not paying property taxes. I'm not paying maintenance fees. I'm renting. I'm letting you, so have you guys ever thought of the renting versus owning question? Because as we start, as this topic kind of opens up here and we keep on peeling the onion,
Sure.
I start thinking in terms of, well, if I just take my money and invest it, okay, give it to my money manager, they do what they're doing. I day trade, and when I talk about day trading, guys, I day trade less than 0.5% of my portfolio because it's just, I don't have the time to do it. And you should not be counting on individual stocks on a buy and sell basis unless you're doing it on a paper trade, meaning that you're just following it, not using real money. But it makes me think, God, maybe I just sell the houses. I don't have to worry about, I'm going to make money over here because my money is no longer in real estate. Now it's in equities. It's going up. I mean, we wouldn't be at 35,000, and we have an all-time high in the S&P this week, Howie. It's not, we're not the Bolsa in Mexico where it's a negative number.
It's a great idea. And right now, actually, renting is much cheaper than buying. But I would say the only counter long term is then you're subject to rent inflation. Is that something you want to be?
Well, but then again, I'm not paying property taxes at 1.5%.
Yeah,
that's true. So have you guys thought about renting versus owning?
I think that the house that we're in, thank you, God, for the life you have given me. We are free and clear on, so I don't have to worry about a mortgage payment or obviously maintenance and stuff like that. But maybe, when my wife and I kick the fledgling out of the nest finally, we move somewhere else into a smaller place. I think it's.
Are you going to stay in California? Is it tenable to stay in California for you? Because again, you're talking about property taxes.
Yeah. No, and there's a bunch of reasons I don't want to.
Plus all those 80-year-old fillies you have over there in Florida when you were with the bus leaders.
Hey,
those.
Everybody loves crepes.
The thing about the difference between real estate, for me anyway, between real estate and stocks is when you buy a stock, you don't have to pay any more. You own that stock, you don't have to pay any more, right? If the stock goes down, it's okay.
Well, you can't say that about real estate.
But real estate, you sign a deal with a bank unless you pay cash.
Yeah.
But with real estate, you sign a deal with a bank, and guess what? You're on the hook every single month to make that morttage payment.
Right.
Sure.
But even if you pay cash,
and oh by the way, there's maintenance.
Let's talk about your bioswale,
even if you pay cash, you still have to pay the government your property taxes every 6 months.
Right.
You still have to pay insurance. Right? So you still have these costs involved, whereas with a stock, guess what? You bought the stock and you don't have to do another thing to it. If it goes up, great. If it goes down, you still don't have to put it.
And there's a lot of money managers that are actually pushing that now, saying, you know what? Try to find a long-term lease or long-term rental, and saying, why would I rent? Throwing money away? No, you're not throwing money. If you compare it, if you do a serious cash flow projection, which is called a pro forma, on what it costs to rent, I wonder. I don't know this. I can't say definitively. I wonder if it turns out to be a break even one way or the other because you're not making equity. Well, guess what? The money I was using in my house, I'm now using in the stock market.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I can get to tomorrow.
And when you hear your water,
I can get to tomorrow.
When you wake up and the water heater's going,
Right.
and you're renting.
I'm not suggesting everybody sell their home, but I'm saying that talking about this liquidity thing as we started today, the T+1, it makes me think. Are you?
I own, and I just read an article about this exact subject that said, back when I was buying, everyone was like buy, and now everyone's saying actually renting is a better option. So now I'm wondering.
So now you got a big pile of cash from your equity in your house. Okay, you throw it to the stock market to invest. Right. That thing starts growing, and very similar. If you look at real estate and equity, it's very similar on the appreciation rate. Okay, sometimes markets up and down, sometimes real estate, but they're very similar in terms of growth, and it's just a function of how fast you want to get your money. I've got guys who will only own real estate because they don't understand the stock market, and they say a balanced portfolio does have some real estate in it. But I start thinking in terms of the way these things are changing in the stock market. If you can get to your money that fast, that quickly. If you're in a bind right now, you either have to do a second mortgage on your house, a reverse mortgage, or something, but it's going to take 2-3 weeks to get it done, right? Let's say you don't have a whole pile over here, all right?
Yes.
If you have your money in the stock market, you have a pile. It's a constant pile, and it's feeding off. It's feeding off of that. So I would be interested. I would be interested in seeing how many people would gladly say, you know what? I'm going to go rent somewhere. I'm going to sell my house, and I'm going to see how much money I can make in the stock market. Because my biggest fear is this. If I sell my house in California and leave, I ain't never going to be able to get back.
Right.
No way.
See what I'm saying?
No
That's the fear.
Isn't that
right?
the fear?
Oh, absolutely.
Unless I rent.
Yep.
Well,
Which I think I'm on-ramping myself. I'm on-ramping myself for renting when I try to come back.
And like Howie said too, now you're subjecting yourself to potential inflation in rental
Yeah.
in the rental market.
Sure.
Right?
My kids aren't going to be able to afford to live here.
If you own, you
I
lock
think
it
that-
in,
So we'll be moving to
at
another
least,
state.
depending on what note you go with.
Can I tell you this? It brings us to that subject about what we talked about the other day was, what's it called, shadow inflation? What do we call it? Shrinkflation?
There's shrinkflation and shadow inflation.
Well, shrinkflation in the housing market has already happened. You're getting less for more already. Shrinkflation doesn't happen in the stock market, okay? It doesn't. You're not getting less. I mean, you can see it because the stock goes down. You're getting more for less. If the stock goes too high, you can watch it. You can watch it on a technical feature called a stochastic oscillator. You can watch it in technical analysis. But you can also know that if suddenly Apple started trading for $1 a share, Apple's still the same company. You know it's a bargain.
Exactly.
If Apple started trading for $135,000 a share, probably stay away from it. There's no shrinkflation there. It's something that you can control. All right, Big Biz Show. More to come. Stand by.
It is time for the Sports Biz Minute. It's brought to you by Prize Picks, the fastest growing daily one-day fantasy sports platform in the world. Sign up today at prizepicks.com. In Olympic news, LA will try and make the 2028 Summer Games a carless event and rely solely on public transportation. Venues for the games will be including the Coliseum, which was used for both the 32 and 1984 games in the city. Venues are around the LA region, although softball and canoe slalom events will be staged in Oklahoma City, over 1,200 miles away, to keep costs under control. They're referring to Oklahoma City now as East LA. In golf, Topgolf Callaway Brands is conducting a strategic review of Topgolf, including potential spinoff of the driving range entertainment venue. Company president Chip Brewer, parents didn't want to name him Putt. He's their chief executive. He has expressed his disappointment at Topgolf's performance, confirmed in the company's earnings report for the second quarter that various options were being explored in order for the business to achieve profitability. Finally, in NFL news, season kickoff is coming up on September 5th and 6th with special Thursday and Friday opening nights. The Ravens will host the Chiefs Thursday night, and then on Friday night, the Eagles and Packers tangle in Brazil. Yeah, the country best known for waxing and illegal organ harvesting. They're hosting an NFL season opener. That is your Sports Biz Minute, brought to you by Prize Picks, the fastest growing one-day fantasy platform in the world. Sign up today at prizepicks.com. Once again, here's Sully.
What could go wrong?
Love the Brazilian.
Have we talked about the NFL 22-year-olds and millionaires lately?
In Vegas.
How's that Raiders thing going? Is it good?
They're getting a handle on it.
Do you know why? Because, and I will tell you this, and this is a segue into this, is that of all the stadiums in the NFL, you've got, well, you don't have San Diego. Hold on. Put it up here. Of all the stadiums, guess who has the best food in all of the stadiums in the NFL?
Vegas.
Vegas. So, in the light of Vegas, Kendrick Minton's here. He is from Joint Smoke. Don't get that wrong. Joint Smoke Barbecue here in San Diego, and he's brought us some lunch. Buddy, I got to tell you, first of all, it smells fantastic. I have to ask you, how'd you get in the business?
Does it?
I mean, how do you get in the barbecue business? Because you know what? Where I'm sitting, you're retired. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Get up in the morning.
You know, honestly, how it all started is growing up around it, of course, and being around it. But I never knew that was what I was going to do, right? You know what I mean? Until, speaking of Vegas.
It's funny, me and Mike still don't know what we're doing.
And speaking of Vegas, until me and my wife moved to Vegas back in 2005, and I had a lot of time on my hands. And all of a sudden, got a bunch of friends from Hawaii, all chefs, and we would stay up at, we wouldn't start partying until, say, 7 o'clock until 7.
I want to hear, hold on, this is some music on. This sounds good.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the weekend.
Yeah, so we would start at 7 p.m. They get off work, and they all come over, and we just cook things and try different things.
Wait a second. A bunch of friends got together and started cooking.
Yes.
And you said, this is what I'm doing for a living. That's a license to steal. Who doesn't want to have that life?
Yeah.
But didn't I know it at that point, though? You know,
That's
until
even
they
better.
and then until they start raving about the food, like the barbecue. So I'm cooking ribs, and I buy this charbroil smoker, $99.
Charbroil Smoker is his gang name, by the way.
Oh, okay. From Smith's.
Okay.
Set it up and start smoking, offset it. I say, man, I'm gonna do these ribs.
Okay, wait a second. So what we do is, do we grill or do we barbecue?
It all depends on what you're doing. Most of us.
excuse
No.
me. No. Please take it away.
No.
Well, it depends there, Nami.
No. Barbecuing That's barbecue.
Well, that's smoking, though.
Low and slow for
Low and
hours.
Okay,
slow is
so- all right.
barbecuing.
Low and slow for
It
hours.
would have been an easier question. What's the difference? Because there is a difference.
Grilling is hot and fast, pretty much.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Barbecuing is low and slow. So you got to have patience and time.
Speaking of hot and fast,
Yeah.
how we can't drive. Go ahead.
You got to have patience and time with this, and that's what it became. 7 hours and making a dry rub.
7 hours.
Well, this is a 7-hour smoke right here.
Okay.
But brisket is my main point of interest. That I do.
Talk about it.
Okay, so and you're getting into Mike's area here because when you think about barbecue, okay, and I'm like, baby backs are my kryptonite, right? Are you barbecue at all?
Love it.
Okay. So, but if you've ever tried brisket, it's geez, Mike's tearing up. What's the difference, Mike?
It's pretty great.
Well, is that tri-tip or brisket?
This is short rib.
Oh, it is. Short rib.
He's talking dirty on the show.
If you ever had beef bones, we call them
Yes.
beef bones in the barbecue world, right? So all this is without the bone. So I found the boneless, and I said, I'm gonna perfect this tonight. You know what I mean?
What?
So I did a 7-8 hour smoke on this, and I haven't even tried it yet, guys. So,
Do you? So
Yeah.
Hold on.
you're dry rubbing it beforehand.
oh, absolutely.
How long are you waiting for it to set up, like in the fridge or whatever?
You don't set it up in the fridge. Once you take it out, you put the dry rub on it. You got about an hour,
Okay.
hour and a half for it to come to room temp.
Sure.
You want
Okay,
to cook
room
beef
temp.
or any kind of barbecue at room temp. You know what I mean? So the smoker don't work so hard to kick the cold out of the meat.
Can
you
I
know what
ask,
mean?
how,
Yes.
how personal or skill-based is this? I mean, what is the difference between me, who's going to give you raw or burnt meat, and then you?
I think you answered the question.
Yeah.
Time-
No, because
time
you were
and
talking
patience.
before, and you said, you can't do this at scale. It's got to be very personal. So how
Time
about?
and patience.
Yeah.
And you got to have a soul for it. You know what I mean? My soul
I can't be on the phone
was
for more than
built for
30
this,
seconds.
you know what
I
mean?
couldn't
So-
do it.
And I didn't know it. You know what I mean? It's a gift that I didn't know until later on in life that I was able to start knowing about gifts that we've been like blessed with through religion of God or whatever. You know what I mean? And this is what it came
Kendrick,
down
I got
to.
a question
And
for
it comes to me naturally.
Yeah.
So you're a retail or do you have a shop?
Don't have a shop, so I do all pop-ups. So all pop-ups.
And this is a new gig economy. Talk about
great
this.
model.
So this is the way that you get into business without all of the overhead, correct?
without all overhead, and I can keep my quality super high. You know what I mean? So without having a lot of overhead, without having a lot of people touch my food and different things like that. And I got a number that I like to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like so, as far as quality-wise, you know what I mean? The way I'm set up, I can do 75 to 100 people. You know what I mean? And that's based
On a pop-up?
On a pop-up. Wow. Easily.
Okay, wait a second.
The smoker, are you towing a smoker everywhere you go?
I'm touring a smoker, but I have a small smoker. You know what I mean? That I do right now, and that's what keep my quality levels high as far as to the numbers that I serve.
So it truly is
people at.
small batch. I got a question for you. Scalability creates wealth. If you could do this 75 to 100 people in San Diego, could you teach other people that you trusted to do it in East LA, which is somewhere in Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
And could you scale it in other states if you, or is that too close to a franchised McDonald's operation?
I think absolutely you could, but the thing of it is like you got to believe in the people that you're training, right? They got to have the same soul, the same passion, things like that. Because they can say, yeah, I want to do this, but then they take shortcuts, and I
I
can't.
think you
handle
should
that.
train every employee in the
You
country.
can't lose any
Yeah, I can't
quality
handle that.
for.
So
that's
my thing
just-
is if I throw out a product and it's not where it needs to be, and I'm serving people, I will throw it away because
Do you know what's crazy?
It's not
You
up
hear
to
it.
quality, up to my quality.
Let me tell you
my
what-
standards. That's
right.
So,
In 30 years, I've interviewed almost every major CEO you've heard of. And I'll tell you the ones that are successful are not doing it for the money. And that's the thing that is special about you. I would say that. Since we're givers and we do it for the children, can we test it?
Absolutely.
Mike, get in there and test
Put
it.
that in
Find
front
a
of
way.
us.
Yeah, please.
Kendrick, will you come back with us at some point?
absolutely.
We'll give you as much exposure as we can. I think you need to start mailing this stuff out because there's going to be people in New York City tonight.
Gonna grab
They're going to
this.
want to have some of your stuff.
and that is my homemade sauce as well.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Look at the smoke ring.
We're not
It just
walking off
crumbles.
stuff.
Look at this.
That's right. Get 'em up.
That's awesome. Holy crap.
Sorry, vegans.
Yeah. We'll do tofu next week.
Absolutely.
Man, that's so good.
Oh, the Big Biz Show rolls on. Glad you guys are with us today. Another great show from the Loft 100 studios. Thanks for being along for this ride. I am Costa. That is Greg Todorov, our executive producer. And you just had your hands on your hips.
Day Trader Trio, ladies and gentlemen, good to see you guys over there.
Best ever.
5 Grammys, 4 Tonys, and a restraining order. You guys are doing great. And an expired Costco card. We were talking about something on the. What were we talking about on the break? We were laughing at something on the break.
Surfing? We were talking about surfing deaths, so that wasn't laughable.
Okay, that was like last Wednesday.
Sorry.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Do you have a memory therapy? Steve Brady, of course, the CEO of Tempest Therapeutics with us, TPST. Yeah, I'm talking about today.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah. I borrowed your shirt to go to the rodeo, and it popped some buttons.
Have you heard of 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag?
Yes, exactly.
But can I ask you this? Do you so we're going to talk about liver cancer in a minute, which could have been avoided, Mike. I'm sorry, Mike.
It's okay.
My question for you is, do you have stores that you shop in? I mean, are you a Nordstrom guy? Because I'm an Amazon guy. If it's blue and the other thing's blue, I'm blue.
Beautiful.
Like, there is no style here.
My wife is for me, a Nordstrom anniversary or half yearly sale. Other than that, we are website folk. Or the Ascot shop in La Jolla, California.
Can I tell you this? Can I ask this? So do you have certain clothing that you won't put in the washer and dryer?
Yes. Dry cleaning only.
Is it because of maybe the extra helping?
Maybe.
I'm just checking. I'm just asking.
Threadbare.
Okay. Can we talk about? I want to talk about something serious. So we followed the arc of this story of Tempest Therapeutics for a little over a year, and we saw this company that found out there was a significant need for new and effective cancer treatments, and suddenly we've got this clinical stage oncology company that comes up with, and I'm going to say it, you don't have to say it because you see it company, but a cure for liver cancer potentially. I mean, we're getting close to solid tumor cancers where we're going to move the needle. 2 years ago, we keep on hearing people, we had 7% of cancers cured, which is not great numbers. I know we feel like we're doing good. We weren't doing that good. So you put out some fantastic news on phase 2 top-line data back in October. This stock, and how often in the last 30 years on this program do we talk about stock? We don't talk about stock price. We don't talk about numbers because we don't have to. We talk about the space. We talk about the company and put some light on it. We're not about promoting. I will tell you this. Because of your top-line data, and I'm staring on the barrel of 800 years old, in the history of the stock market, there's never been a one-day gainer larger than Tempest Therapeutics. Now, it was based upon fundamentals, right? Who's in the lunchroom? Steve Brady. What are they doing? We got FDA top line. It was all fundamental. I would argue that I was personally responsible for 30% of it, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. However, you came up with more data here in May. And I want to bring this up because there's no graceful way to do it from a company standpoint, but the investment community completely put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, okay? Missed the entire point of your last press release. Now look and I know this is highly different for many of our viewers across the country and across the world, because we just don't do this. But when you see somebody say, Patriots win, you'd expect to have a Super Bowl parade.
Yeah.
I want you to talk in terms of not only scientific terms, because I think we have a scientific audience, but also in terms of Johnny Lunchbucket City CEO investors, because we touched on it last time, but I think this message needs to get out, because I'm just going to say it. You're undervalued. Your market cap does not demonstrate what you are as a company. You have not said a word, but I've been in this business long enough in the investment banking side that the chances of you not getting acquired or not getting a path to liquidity are slim and none, and Slim just left town. So this is a company that, I'm not talking about the science, I'm not touting anything, I'm just saying, why is there a disconnect between the valuation of this company? And by the way, this guy's taking phone calls every day who's pointing their finger squarely at you for some reason, and that it's not your fault. Is it because the perception of that press release was mistaken or not misunderstood? Because I read it 4 times today. You couldn't have put it more plainly, but people just didn't get it. So talk about what actually happened, and I'll calm down.
Yeah, no. So first of all, thank you for inviting me back, guys. It's always good to be
here.
We
love having you here.
So there is no perfect answer to what happened in, I believe it was in June. And one thing that bears repeating is in October, when the stock went ballistic and we put out those data were not the data. They were important, and they were exciting, and they still are exciting, but they directionally were pointing towards what we have now. Because in first-line liver cancer, as you guys know, it's a very large indication. There's an endpoint around the world called overall survival. That's what everybody cares about.
I want to stop down. What do you mean by endpoint? Because we hear endpoint in biopharma in terms of FDA.
Right.
When as investors we hear there's an endpoint, is the endpoint define endpoint for the rest of us?
So it's a regulatory endpoint. When you go in and you do a pivotal study, you need some kind of a readout, right? And there's multiple different ones that the FDA and the regulatory agencies in China and Europe, but they all have one that they agree upon globally for liver cancer, and that's one's called overall survival. What is the rate that people are living in your new investigational therapy?
So
by the way, it's also the gold standard.
I was going to say this is the accepted industry gold standard for here. So there is continuity to where every company who's vying for this is shooting at the same bar.
Yeah,
correct?
in fact, what's evolved in drug development over the years is people have been trying to negotiate with FDA and everybody else to do things that aren't OS. They've been saying, can I do a surrogate? Can I do something that will result in people living longer? The data we came out with just recently and the data that we're going to be generating if we do the phase 3, it's all OS. And the beautiful thing going into it is that you're saying you read it 3 times. The data we just came out with out of the phase 2 are great.
So what they missed was we hit the endpoint goal, and the reason they missed it was because people didn't die?
Well,
is that,
I think this is
simple?
where you get into imperfect answers. I think there's a few variables happening here. One is that, and I guess I should technically say these are my views, even though a lot of people I know share them with me.
No, and we play a disclaimer also. I mean, look, we're not touting this up, but I think the story needs to get out here because this is a NASDAQ publicly traded company. There are people that own this in their retirement accounts.
Right.
And 1 + 1 does not equal 2 today. And it hasn't for a couple of weeks because somebody misread the press release, or we didn't do a good enough job here on this program, or whatever. But we missed the point. I think it's important for the next several times for us let's get the point out there, because you reacted in a way that has never been seen by the stock market in October. We should have seen similar, maybe not to that extent, but we should have seen
something dramatic.
Right.
I agree with you.
So,
no, we were flabbergasted because again, everything in October was pointing towards this. Then we had the this. And so instead of it going sideways or going south a little bit, it should have done something.
What did people mistake it for? Because they read it as one thing when it was really another thing. You and I have talked about this off the air before. I think that they hear it didn't hit an endpoint, and they maybe took that as a negative. And that was
I don't know. I mean, maybe. So when we talk to our analysts and the people covering the stock, there's another positive fact that we came out with in June too. We got the data. So we hit the 6-month improvement over the standard of care. So the #1 therapy worldwide, we hit a 6-month improvement in patients living over that in this phase 2. But 50% of our patients are still alive as of that read. So that can actually get better. And patients were still on drug. And so one of the analysts said, I wonder if that's cutting both ways. I just...
Wait, people living longer? People living longer and proof of concept is cutting both ways.
You're saving too many lives.
Well, I mean, because theoretically, if you're a strict statistician, numbers can shift either direction until something is 100% done. I choose to look at, when I look at the overall data, because by the way, the other thing was when we looked in the data, we went into subpopulations, right? Because there's all different groups, whether you're cirrhotic or, different types of indications. And the survival benefit was being maintained across all the, key subpopulations.
But people can't live less than they already have. So in that sense, the data can only go one way,
I feel
right?
like
I mean,
are you having an out-of-body experience? I'm looking down at you guys.
No, I'm
floating.
But the math adds up.
I mean, not to ask a religious question.
No,
but
it's actually, unfortunately, it's the stats question about how you build a Kaplan-Meier. But at the end of the day, what we're excited about internally, stock market aside, is what do people want from us next? They want to know what the FDA says, right? Because we can have great data, go to the FDA, and they say, well, we don't agree with the way you want to do this. The thing that was best out of the phase 2 is the thing that we're going to go to FDA with to get the drug approved, and we're going to design.
And you couldn't have gone to go to the FDA if it had not hit those marks.
Yes,
I think that's important.
We wouldn't have an argument.
Before you get out of here, what does the second half of the year look like for you? What's next? We're going into phase 3, trying to fund phase 3 potentially.
Yes, so we still need to fund the phase 3. The biggest next thing for us is when do we get what are called our FDA minutes? Right. When does the FDA, we have formal interactions with the FDA. We've guided the street that we expect to hear back by the end of summer, which is sort of, soon. And what that does is it removes risk. That tells everybody, okay, now I know what the FDA agreed with, what they didn't, and what you guys are going to do, and how long it's going to take, and all that good stuff.
Steve Brady, it's always great to have you back here. And by the way, folks, for our Bloomberg audience, you'll see a special with Steve Brady tonight, and again coming up in a couple of weeks, of course, because they just like to have him just talk to Mary. I'm not allowed on the set, by the way.
Not.
Steve Brady, Tempest Therapeutics. TPST. Go read the damn press release again.
There's a really good baseline in 46 and 2.
Oh, okay.
I love when CEOs of public companies are really hippies, like
Baseline.
like the Nike guy,
Phil Knight.
Phil Knight. See you in a minute.
It is. If you're watching, wherever you are listening, we always appreciate you being along for the ride. The handsome guy talking to you right now, it's me. I'm Costa. You're welcome, America and the world. That's Greg Todorov, our executive producer.
Are you? Do you put the Costa like? Are you like? What is your 23andMe heritage? DNA?
Oh, I'm Scotch Italian, and a little.
That's one thing you don't see very often. I order a thing of plate lasagna and a Scotch neat.
Yeah, I'm cheap, but I'll kill you.
Right.
Wait a minute. You're Scotch and Italian.
Yeah.
Oh, because you're thrifty.
Yeah.
All right. Remember
the Steels from Nebraska. What? Pretty good. That's a pretty good Scotch, right?
I need Scotch now.
It's a little.
Just.
Okay, I'll just
let it go to the ether.
Yeah, let it percolate.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. There's no going.
But I want to know. Like you said, I'm drunk, but I steal from you. Is that what you said?
I'm cheap.
Oh.
And I'll kill you.
No, I got,
Yeah, you were close, Sully.
2 of the 4 sins. I'm sorry. My bad.
That's Irish and French.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
This
true.
is Jonathan Javitt, of course, good friend of the program, founder, director, chief scientific officer, and now chairman of the board of a company called NRX Pharmaceuticals. We've talked about suicidal ideation. You're going to see their bizumentary. Yes, thanks. I get paid a nickel every time somebody says it on TV.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The bizumentary is coming out here on BizTV as well as on Bloomberg and potentially coming up on Bravo. Or I beg your pardon. Bravo or Ovation? Bravo. Ovation, right?
Bravo.
See how I get mixed?
Both great.
Long story short is, we have a pretty good press release, and things are moving forward. We've talked to Mike Taylor, our financial expert, about Hope Therapeutics and what's coming from that. News keeps getting better for NRX, and guess what I got? Because we're important. Jonathan Javitt's here. What's up, bud? Great
How
to
are
see
you?
Hey,
It's been a busy week.
it's been busy. Let's talk about. I want you to take it away because it's some pretty good news today in the market in terms of investors believing in NRX by putting in some money into the company. Talk about that.
Well, we're excited that one of the better and more thoughtful biotech funds out there, Anson Funds of Toronto, chose to bring in what will be between $10.5 and $16 million in convertible debt, and that's enough to get our drugs filed with the FDA.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about this the other day with Mike Taylor, who's a financial expert on the program, who I know you're familiar with, saying that it's a different type of investor that takes literally the long soak. Mm-hmm. It's a fishing term. Thank you very much. Let's talk hookup. But it's a 7-year turnaround oftentimes for a startup investor into a biopharma firm because you got to go through FDA and you got to go through the bells and whistles. And oftentimes you got to raise money in between. So it's not a small task for a company like yours to go raise money. And it's a testimony to investors believing in what you're doing. So that's some good news.
Well, and in our case, it's been a brutal task. We started this company in 2015, and I went and saw all the usual venture capitalists, and they all asked me the same question, which is what keeps you up at night? And I'd always have the same answer, which is, I worked on the SARS epidemic in the Bush administration, and a global pandemic would be really bad for our business. And because we're making the drug in Shanghai, which we're not doing anymore, a trade war with China would be really bad for our business. And they would all laugh. Well, it turns out we got both of those. And we survived both of those. And now we've got drugs that are ready to file with FDA and hopefully be on the market in 2025. So it's an exciting time for us.
Hey, Dr. Javitt, 2 questions for you in terms, I want to get to the drugs in a second, but I want to talk about, you talk about 2025. Do you expect to take this to market to yourselves, or do we do what they call that risk aversion model and have a larger bio firm come in, pick up the ball, take it to the finish line, and you're working on your next drug? Can you share what your thoughts are on that?
Certainly for ketamine, which is a drug that's not a home use drug, it's a drug that's going to be given in clinics. We know who those clinics are. We're already working with those clinics, and through our Hope Therapeutics division, we expect to own some of those clinics. So when you've got a potential customer base that's under 1,000 people, there's no reason to work with a large pharmaceutical company. They can't really address a market that small, that compact, very readily. So we're certainly going to do that by ourselves. Now, our second drug, NRX 101, that's anticipated to be a home use drug, is one that'll likely be prescribed by fewer than 1,600 psychiatrists in the United States. And that too is a footprint that a small company can address, although a highly motivated partner would be great to have. So in my opinion for you, you now have runway to complete the drug task, and then let's bring up Hope Therapeutics, because I think that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Can you share on that, where this puts us now? Well, we have runway, we have a motivated investor, and we've got data that keeps getting better. So we've been talking about data that we're going to be presenting to FDA from about 1,000 patients, showing that ketamine is better than placebo, it's better than active comparator, it's as good as electroshock therapy for treating people with suicidal depression. Well, just this week, a study of approximately 43,000 patients, not randomized and prospective the way the FDA wants, but an observational study, what's called a cohort study, was published in a leading journal, showing exactly the same effect for ketamine in reducing suicidal ideation and depression. So we have a drug that patients need, that's rapidly becoming the standard of care. That's a life-saving drug, and that's an exciting place to be.
Dr. Jonathan Javitt, founder, director, chief scientific officer, NRX Pharmaceuticals on the
Not
NASDAQ.
to mention chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board, excuse me, sir. Also NASDAQ NRXP.
Howie, you got a question?
Dr. Javitt, pleasure to see you, sir. Congratulations on the deal. How important is it? I noticed that Anson Funds came out with a very strong statement saying, we believe in the science, we believe in the long-term vision. How much more efficiently are you operating with a partner rather than, someone that wants a deal done quickly?
Well, I think that it's a challenge in this market to find an investor who's committed to long-term success and not just committed to how quickly can we churn the stock. And as we've all seen, there are too many technical investors, and we've suffered from some of those. But the problem in the biotech market is investors who are going to take a long view, who are in the company to make patients' lives better.
And
not to be out next month.
I think the story is that after today's deal, you're past that. Well, maybe everyone else isn't.
I would agree. Yeah. There you go.
Well,
Big Biz Show. Dr. Jonathan Javitt, chairman of the board, CEO, chief scientific officer, director of NRX Pharma. That's some good news. You will look for the Bizumentary on NRX and suicidal ideation coming right here on BizTV. More Big Biz coming up tomorrow. See you then.